Hi, everyone. Sorry for kicking off a little bit late there. Thank you so much for joining us in our session on turning values into goals with Lumiant. So thank you so much for dialing in. For those that haven't met me yet, my name's Elise Little. I'm the Customer Success Executive here at Lumiant. And today I'm also joined by Ash Pleskett, Head of our Customer, Mark Ackroyd, Head of Advice, Delivery, Strategy and Innovation. Always get stuck in your title there, Mark. And we also have a special guest joining us, James Wortley, who's the CEO and founder of Enlightened Financial Solutions, who you might be familiar with from our previous webinar, Discovering Your Client Values. So while we're getting underway, I thought it'd be great if we could have an introduction from yourselves as well. So we do have a chat box at the bottom of your screen. And so if you can just pop in where you're joining us from today, we would love to hear and see where you're coming in from. So yeah, just right down the bottom, if you'd just like to pop in the chat whereabouts you're joining from, that'd be fantastic. Port Lincoln. Hi, Cameron. Thanks so much for jumping in. Mark, coming in from Melbourne, thank you so much. Do we have anybody else joining in from any other places in Australia? Maybe we've got some overseas participants today. No, that's fine. While you're popping that, oh, here we go. We've got another one coming through. Oh, hi, Chris. Thanks so much for joining in as well, Gold Coast. So it's great to hear from you. This chat functionality, it's going to be open throughout the whole session. So please use this to ask any questions. We'd love to hear from you throughout the session as well. So we'll jump into today's session. So with today's webinar, Turning Values into Goals, it's part 5 in our webinar series. So previously we have covered how to manage clients in the Lumiant platform. We've also gone through how to enhance your experience with Lumiant, how to introduce Lumiant to your clients. So this is where we went through discussing the Your Life survey, how to use those results to transition into a values conversation. And most recently, we went through discovering your client values with Lumiant. And so this is where we went through how to actually conduct a value session in your discovery meeting. So today's webinar, it really does follow on from there. So this is where we're going to start to learn the art of being able to tease out those tangible goals and how these actually link to clients' chosen values. So to help with this, I'm going to take you through how to uncover and capture tangible goals, setting SMART goals with your clients, why non-financial goals matter, asking for permission to keep your clients accountable to those non-financial goals, and how to keep your clients accountable in between progress meetings as well. So we've got a little bit to cover off, but at the end, we will also have a question and answer session too. Today's session, it's going to run for 60 minutes and it is being recorded. So we will share this at the end of the event and we will also put this on our support center as well. So let's jump in and get started today. So with values to goals, I guess up until this point of setting a SMART goal with your clients, you would have spent some time understanding the clients on a deeper level and you would have had them complete the Your Life survey as well as a value session. So it's important to note that although goals are predominantly going to be uncovered during your value session, there are key moments or areas with your clients that you might also identify goals. So firstly, when you are completing the Your Life survey with your clients or clients completing that from home, what will actually happen is they will be presented with a screen that asks them to actually capture what financial goals that they'd like to have addressed. So this is the first moment where you'd actually start to understand some goals that the client would like to achieve. These can then be defined later on in your goals conversation with the client. Following this, as an advisor, as you're reviewing that Your Life survey with your client and you're starting to unpack their results and how they've actually answered the questions in that survey, you might actually uncover some goals in that conversation as well. So again, you can capture some notes about these and start to define those later. As we did see in our last webinar, Discovering Your Client's Values, this is when you then start to move into that values exercise and unpack what each values means to your client and why they chose that. And then follow up to understand what actually needs to happen in the next year to progress towards that value. So this is where you're starting to really understand what the clients, really to understand the clients and uncover tangible goals in that conversation as well. So at any time in your conversation with your clients, if you do uncover goals, you can actually use our Your Goals or Quick Goals feature. And so this is a way that you can actually quickly capture information with minimal details, and it really helps to shape future goal conversations. And I'll show you a little bit more about that when we jump into the platform. So once each client has gone through and shared why the values are important to them, and the advisor is then sort of encouraged the partners to come to that shared 5 aligned core values. This is where then you as an advisor are going to start to get the clients to rate their values by setting a progress score, and then begin a discussion about developing goals around each of these values and what really needs to happen to progress that score. So that's to get a bit of a catch up from where we left off last time. And this is where we really start to, I guess, uncover and capture those tangible goals. So before diving into goal setting, as an advisor, you're going to need to ask the client to rate their current progress in relation to their top value. So this marks how they're actually aligning their life and their value currently. So the scales range from 1 to 10, and ideally this is going to rise over time. So I'm just going to jump into my values session just to talk through a little bit more, because we're going to spend a bit of time in this part of the platform. So this is where you're asking the client to rate their progress. And when you're talking to the clients about this, this is where you might like to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, so 1, you haven't started to do anything, 10, you've already done it. How far along do you actually think that you are in progressing this value? So you can actually facilitate the conversation around these scores and ask, put some asking around why they've self-assessed in that way. And the important aspect of the scoring is understanding what things your client is wanting to do to live their life to their values. And by understanding where the client sits in terms of their progress, it's going to help you to really direct that conversation further as well. So, for example, maybe a client has chosen dedicate more time to those that they care about. So what is the client going to implement or put in progress to progress and live towards this value? So what are they going to do maybe to get from a 4 to a 6? Or what is stopping them from getting to a 10? So when you're asking the client, what do they need to do to progress this value? This is where you're actually starting to tease out and uncover the tangible goals and what needs to be put in place to help this client progress their values. So you can actually direct the clients to share ideas for how to progress more towards living out their values. So for example, you might want to say to them, what do you need to do to improve that score? Or what are some possible areas of improvement? You might even like to ask them to say, to take that score from a 3 to a 5, what specifically could you do to help improve that? So there's different ways that you can prompt that conversation, and you'll see a little bit more of this when we do jump into a role play. So you might also, as you're prompting this conversation, maybe like to give some examples of what other people or other clients that you're working with are doing to progress this value if the client's a little bit unsure. So maybe they want to master a new skill or knowledge. So perhaps that might be learning a new instrument. So this is where they might need to set aside some time. Maybe they need to set aside some money to pay for tutors. They'll want to have a date as to when maybe they want to put on a performance for their friends or family. So there's different things that you can do and ask to start to tease out that information about that goal. Perhaps maybe they want to, do a PhD to help master a new skill or knowledge. So maybe there's going to be a little bit more of an upfront investment, but ultimately that could lead to a pay increase. So all of these factors should be defined and considered when you are starting to rate their values. So a great way to capture this information is by using the quick goals. So as mentioned, we do have this quick goal functionality. So as you are having that conversation, if you are uncovering a little bit more information and you realize that this is a goal that the client wants to achieve, you can come in here You can put in a goal category, you can put in a title, and you can also get the client to rate the importance of that goal. So is it something that is a must-have? Is it a nice to have? Or is it a dream come true? Another tip that you can use here as well is we do have this record functionality in the platform. So as you're having this conversation with the client, you can actually use the voice to text to capture that conversation, and you can use that information to then start defining, the goals when you do move into that goal setting exercise. Some advisors actually record their whole advice meeting. So again, it's another way that you can capture that information and come back to it at a later stage. So whatever the outcome of the conversation that you have had with the client, it's either going to result in a goal or a task. So prompting the client for detail so that the goal is SMART, it's really going to help you in defining the goals post the value session. So when you are asking this information from the client, you might even ask the client, how confident are they in achieving this goal? You definitely want to know how important it is to them, because setting SMART goals is really where you move from broad long-term interests to something very achievable for the client to act on. So it's that opportunity for you to demonstrate how you're going to help that client move ideas into actions and show the client how they really can start to live their best life. So to develop goals in that SMART format, that's where you're going to want to ensure that the goal is specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, and it's time bound. And we've got things that we've built into the platform to help you achieve that as well. So now that we've done a little bit of a run through of uncovering goals, I just wanted to spend the next 10 minutes doing a little bit of a role play where we've got James joining us, and thank you, James, again for joining us, where James will be the advisor. Myself and Ash will be clients, Dan and Abby, and start to sort of, show you a little bit of how that conversation is going to play out.
Okay, thanks, Elise, and thanks, Ash, as well. So just as part of this conversation, when we've already done that values conversation about this particular card, we're actually going to have a lot of that information already that we can actually come back to. So we might sort of just guess some of the answers or be able to premeditate some of those conversations that we're actually going to have in this one here. So, but first of all, the way that I actually run through this particular presentation, this part of rating your values. So for Ash and Elise, feeling confident in your finances was your number one card or number one priority. So if you can come together, how would you actually score yourselves from a range of 1 to 10, 10 being you're very confident that you're actually going to attain your best life when it comes back to feeling confident in your finances? What score would you give yourselves?
I'll let you go first, Elise. It all rests on your business.
Look, I'm feeling about, I would say, less than 50% confident at this stage, so maybe a 4 or 5. I'm in my first year of being self-employed. I have was a hobby business, which is now turned into my full-time employment. So being in that first year of business, I'm still not really sure how things are going. I know the business is getting busier. I've got more clients. There's a lot of things that I want to achieve, but knowing if we're financially able to achieve that is where I'm feeling a little bit unsure.
I'd probably go a little bit lower and go 4, because it's great. She started her own business and it's thriving, but we're still relying a lot on my corporate salary to do both expand her new business and support our lifestyle. So I'm really a bit concerned about our finances and being able to live the life we want.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for being honest with me in relation to those scores as well. Especially feeling confident finances, it can be so broad as a value, as we've discussed. So it'd be great to be able to say, okay, look, this is what you need to be able to do to get to a 10. That's really not going to happen, especially for a new business. With a new business, I just might ask you, Elise, with your business there, do you actually have a business plan that you've actually done? And have you actually thought about what succession actually looks like?
Look, being that it was all happened so quickly and went from hobby to full-time work, probably not as much as I should have focused in that. I've just been trying to keep up with demand, really. So I would say no, I need to sort of start to improving that a bit more.
Okay, because that's the one thing I actually deal a lot with business clients, and I always say to them, as soon as you jump into business, what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? And a lot of that is actually understanding not only the practicality of actually running the business, but what are the goals, but then what's the end game as well for a business. Most people will be there for what's important. And we have talked about that briefly with your value card in relation to your business coming up. But so I think probably what's important, and we might even set just a quick goal as part of that, is just put a bit of focus back on actually having a business strategy where you've actually got a little bit more time to be able to just jot a few things down to be able to understand what that actually business strategy looks like. And the one thing, when we talk about goals, also we want to make sure that we actually put some timing around it as well, because this is really critical for you. You need to make sure that that you actually put some type of structure around it. So do you think with that business strategy, maybe over the next 4 weeks or 3 months, what type of time frame do you actually want in relation to be able to provide a little bit of a starting conversation in relation to that business strategy?
Look, I probably want to get that kicked off sooner rather than later, because one thing that comes to mind that I know I want to achieve is I need to get like a bigger truck that has fridges. I need more equipment, and I plan to put in some more staff. So probably that business strategy plan would need to happen sooner rather than later.
Okay, that's fantastic. So we'll put that there, and we'll actually come back as that. Okay, for you, Elise, 4 to 5. Let's put it. What the things that you need to be able to do to get to a 6? So we talked about the business strategy. Again, we'll come back to that because there's a lot in that. But what are the other things that you need to be able to do to make sure that you're feeling a little bit more confident with your finances?
At the moment, as Ash had said, is that I'm kind of relying on he's kind of making my dream come true. I'm relying on his income and his cash, and yeah, kind of just spending and jumped into it. So for me, I would want to be a bit more sound in my own income from my business, and have that clear goal of what's coming in from that, and being able to keep up with demand, get this equipment that I need, so I kind of know exactly where I'm planning out in the future.
Okay, and so you mentioned the equipment and the trucks. So what type of capital amount of money do you actually need? So again, I would just jump quickly, just segue into a quick goal. So to be able to purchase that truck that you want, how much are you actually looking at, and what time frame?
Probably I want to have that within the next 6 months. And I'm probably going to need about, I would say, 30 to 50,000.
Okay, lovely. And how about, so again, once we've got that quick goal in there, we jump straight into the next goal. How about for the equipment? What type of capital amount of money are you looking at, and what time frame?
Oh, truck I need in 3 to 6 in that 6 month period. So that would be my truck.
Yeah. How about the equipment?
I'm hoping it's going to be one of those trucks that have all the fridges and everything in there, so I can be mobile.
Okay. So all bound together there.
Yeah.
Okay. So for you, what are the other things you need to be able to do? We'll just cover off on the business side as well. So the truck and equipment. How about for employees? Is there what are the employees? Do you need to be able to get that type of support in your business over what period of time?
Yes, I'm going to be needing to take on another part-time staff member. And so just ensuring that I've got enough income coming through to, I guess, pay them a wage and make sure that I'm always able to keep up to date with the expenses for them. My stock and things is pretty easy because as the cash comes in, like I always just make sure I've got enough to cover the stock and things, but yeah, making sure that I'm not going to let that team member down. Yeah.
And what type of income do you think you need to be able to make that decision, to be able to bring on that part-time support?
Look, there'd probably only be more weekends, part-time, maybe I would say maybe 40,000.
Yeah. Yep. So you need to be able to make sure that you've got around about sort of $40,000-$50,000 worth of extra income that you're actually that you have today to be able to bring on that part-time support person.
Yeah.
Lovely. That's great. Is there any other expenses that you feel that you will have coming through?
Personally, I think she needs to start paying herself a salary. At the moment, she's doing it off her own blood, sweat, and tears, and helping her staff get in control. But one thing she hasn't done yet is really take a proper monthly salary out of the business, and it's just paying herself as and when it's available. So I think this would help us feel much more confident in our finances if she had a steady stream of income on a monthly basis.
Yeah, and thanks, Ash, because how much, can I just ask you how much income you're actually taking from your income to be able to support the business at the moment, or is it covering itself?
Yeah, no, it's taking a bit out of it. It varies. I mean, it's the thing with startups and starting a business, it varies on a monthly basis, but I'd probably say it's taking 20 to 30% of my wage currently, which is quite a significant chunk considering we're still having to pay mortgages on top of that and everything else with our life. So it's a heavy whack. Some months it's smaller, some months it's larger. So just trying to reduce that would be ideal.
Yeah, oh, that'd be great. So you did mention mortgages, and that's, we see a lot of people in the same instance for you guys, where actually trying to do a business, they've got mortgage and other commitments. So from a mortgage point of view, have you got some goals that you actually want to be able to get to in relation to your mortgage? So if you've got as I can see, you got $500,000 owing on your home loan, what does that actually look like? Is there a goal to be able to pay this out in a certain period of time as quick as possible? What does that look like for both of you?
Yeah, I mean, we took out a long mortgage. I think it was 40-year term, but we really want to reduce that and get it paid off as quickly as possible. But also looking at different ways we can explore kind of reinvesting that into the business if we need to, and helping that drive the growth of the company that Abby set up, rather than maybe looking at our cash flow and eating into that.
Yeah. How about for you, Elise? Have you got a time frame where you'd like to say, okay, I'd like to be able to have this mortgage paid off in the next 10 years, 15 years?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I mean, in an ideal world, once the business is more established and we do start to get a lot more income coming through, I would hope that we could use that to start paying down that debt. And so for me, ideally, it would be great, if we could have that paid off. I think we've still got maybe 25 years, 30 years owing on that. So yeah, if we could reduce that to a smaller time frame, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. And if everything was going really well for you, what time frame do you think that could be?
Oh, I'd love it to be 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, I was going to say 10 years.
Yeah. Okay. No worries. We'll put that in as a goal and just fine tune that for 10 years and just see what that actually does. Because this is where it comes back to when we're talking about these type of goals, we want to make sure that, are you able to be able to do it? Really interesting, because a lot of people actually don't understand that. So from our point of view, we can actually give you that insight in relation to, this is how much money you need to be able to pay off your home loan each month to be able to pay that out in that 10 years. Then it comes back to, are you able to be able to do that in your financial circumstances, especially when it's actually starting a business as well, makes it pretty difficult to be able to reallocate money. So the next question I just want to follow up with, and maybe I might just finalize it with the last question due to time, is feeling confident in your finances. Are you finding, you mentioned already that, Ash, a lot of your income is actually going to the business. Is feeling confident in your finances for you, would you be better, I'll just rephrase that. How do you want to make sure that you actually manage your cash flow, that you are feeling confident in your finances?
I think that's it. It's just having a bit of structure around our cash flow, particularly with the varying amount of outgoings we have on a monthly basis. And this is why I made the point of Abby needs to pay herself her own wage, because it's just different each month. And I think I feel much more confident in my finances if I could see a structure or process, so that I know that 20% might come out each month, and that will reduce to 15, then 10, then 5. But at the moment, I just can't keep track of it. I couldn't even tell you what it is month to month.
Okay, lovely.
I'm a bit of a spender in the business. I get a bit excited and just buy things. Sorry, Ash.
Yeah. And that's really important. The one thing that we can definitely help you out is actually understanding what you're actually spending your money on. So we can do that two ways: through your business, again, going through your accounting, having a look at profit and loss and seeing what money is actually coming and what's going out. But then on the other side is actually having a look at your personal expenses and seeing what that is. So we can just add a goal in there just in relation to your spending. Make sure that we can actually review that over the next 3 months And then number one, understand what your expenses are, and then actually start to flush out what that budget actually looks like over the next 12 months. Because it's really important to be able to, when you manage money well, you need to understand both sides, how much money is coming in, how much is going out. So I think that's actually going to give you a lot more value in relation to feeling confident in your finances if we can do that. Is that okay with you guys?
That sounds brilliant.
That sounds brilliant. I think then we would both feel a little bit more at ease.
Yeah.
Okay, I could keep going on and on and on, but I know due to time, I just want to be able to at least try to bring in the business side as well for a lot of clients that there's so much opportunity to be able to there. But I don't know, how many goals do we get there just in the space of, sort of 5-7 minutes?
Let's jump out of that one there. So I'm just going to quickly save that session so I can show you where those goals come through while
you're getting that up, Elise, let me play back some of my reflections as I heard that. So firstly, James, well done. And I'm sure our audience were sort of similar to myself, sort of hanging on the edge of their seat to see where you're going to get to with the goals and how do you manage that conversation, which is where the art of this is, right? So as with everything with Lumiant, when you're using Lumiant, there is a preface that you're open to the fact that this conversation could go anywhere, right? And this is a really great example of that. So if everyone that was playing at home followed along and maybe felt the same way I did, this conversation started with Elise, the business owner, having a goal around getting a business strategy together. And for our financial advisors in mind, probably sitting there going, how do I help with that, right? I can't fit a solution to that. It's not a strategy that I have up my sleeve. But here's where it gets really great. If you noticed with James, he clocked that as a goal because it's still important to the client, but sat with that conversation and went into that conversation and asked questions like, how much, or what would it look like if you did that? How would that work for you? How do you want to maybe do this? When could you get it done? And then that prompted more conversation where he heard things like, oh, well, I need to figure out how my asset purchases that I need on my for my business need to come out. And then he latched onto those because they're financial goals, right? So as advisors, we're looking for those. And he's going, okay, so your asset purchases, how much are they? When do you want to get those done? And you start from feel confident in my finances to move to a business plan to now going to asset purchases. I think you scroll down here, right, Elise? Asset purchases, pay income for a lease, pay wage for a new staff member, structure around cash flow, which was Ash's goal, pay down debt within 10 to 15 years. So one value equals what? 5 to 6 goals, right? Just through the art of the questions that you're asking and what I would term the courage to stick with it, because it would be very easy to bail out and go, I can't help with business strategy. It's not my forte. But if you lean into it, it then turns into something really special. The other thing that I don't know if everyone else picked up in James was doing, and this is great, an advice professional that's, knows their value, starting to drip feed the strategy that he's applying to these goals, because he's starting to articulate, I can help you with these things. It's going to take the form of, assessing when you can pay down your debt, assessing your cash flow and giving you structure around that. I can do those things. We're not solving for them, but every goal he's attributing his value to being like, I can help you with that. And here's how it might look, which is super empowering for the client, super good for your relationship, because you're setting the foundation of this is messy. Hey, life's messy. We've got a lot going on, but really simply, I've dealt with this before. I've got a solution for it. We can work through things. And you see, even though it's a role play, that allows the client to keep going, all right, well, let's just keep throwing stuff at him. He seems like he can solve a lot of things. let's keep opening up that conversation.
And ultimately, it's giving them peace of mind, right? As a client, I'm going there, I've got all these problems, and oh my God, I'm going through all these different goals that I've got to achieve. And I've got James there going, don't worry, we've got this. We can structure a plan around it and we can make sure that you're in safe hands. And immediately what you'll find is clients will come at ease and go, okay, it's not as stressful or as scary as I first thought. I've got help and I've got support. Yeah,
and that's great. Feedback. Thanks for that, Mark. The other part to this is, and I know there's some accountants that are actually going to start looking at this, that's a perfect client where actually it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a financial advisor to be able to have this discussion. And because I'm even thinking from the other side to say, okay, from a technical point of view or a strategy point of view, what do you need to roll out as a financial advisor? And come back to a statement of advice. There's actually a lot of stuff in there that majority, there's not even a statement of advice. We got financial advisors that keep on coming back to, okay, righto, this is what I need to do. I need to be able to provide advice to them. This is where our value is. Our value is talking to our clients, understanding what their needs are. And this is more critical, having someone there. And straight away for me, I can grab the accountant. If I don't know the accountant already, I can talk to Elise, talk to the accountant, get the invitation, talk to them. This is what we're actually looking to do. And then straight away, you're actually building a good professional relationship as well on top of that. So we're talking sort of 10 minutes of all this opportunity coming through that the clients go, yes, this is great. This is exactly what I need. And we're happy to pay for the advice as well. But I mean, that's one value. There's another 4 to go yet.
Correct. It's a great point, James, right? Because the natural tension point our audience will be hearing here is, it's going to take time, right? But if that 10 minutes gets you 5 things that are super important to the client, the argument here is that worth the time to the client? And then eventually to yourself, right? Because obviously you would have to monetize your comprehensive work, whether there's a statement of advice, whether it's business coaching, whether it's referral to someone else. There's obvious that natural tension between commerciality and experience. But which is what Lumiant's here to do, client experience is the heart of it. You'd be hard pressed to argue that that's not a worthwhile spend of time, so that the client gets that clarity around, when I say feel confident in my finances, there's some really tactile things that I need to do to get my life together.
Yep, definitely. Thanks so much, Mark, for your input as well. That was really valuable. And thanks, James, for running through that session as well. I guess a few things that we haven't mentioned there is just around like time, like some practices, that is definitely a hurdle that they do come up against. So I guess once you have gone through and you've unpacked all of that with the client and you've uncovered all of those goals, and as you could see, we were just plugging in quick goals as we went along. So just by hitting in the quick goals, you can put in some information to help build those out. And as you can see, they all pull through into this goals module here. So you can see at the moment, there's not a lot of information on these ones because they're just the quick information that we have pulled through. So in regards to, I guess, setting SMART goals with your clients, this is where you can actually then start to put in more information around titles, descriptions, what success looks like to the client, target dates, what needs to happen for that client to achieve the goal, and maybe there's some costs involved with it as well. Clients can actually, as you've seen, we uncovered 6 goals just for one value. So you can actually have more than one goal per value. And I'll take you through the goal module in a second, show you how you can actually link them back to that value. But essentially, all of the information that you're feeding into the goals module, this is essentially going to then all pull through to Best Life. So the more information that you can put in the goals, the better, as ultimately this is going to help to drive that information that you're seeing in that Best Life module. So with the goals module, we have built this out so that both an advisor and a client can come in, they can update, they can create, they can manage their goals. So it can be managed by a client or the practice. And I guess the best practice on how you're actually going to do the goal setting exercise off the back of all of that information that you've captured during your value session, it's really going to depend on, I guess, whatever suits your practice. So some practices will actually use all of that information that they've gathered in that values exercise and start to fill in the quick goals that they've captured post-meeting. So you can come in here, you can pull out all of that information, you can fill in all of the blanks, and then anything else that you need from the client, you can always get the client to then come in here and actually fill in any information that you might be missing. Other advisors, they'll actually get the client to do all of that from home. So they'll register the client so they've got access to the digital life book. They'll give them some instructions to actually come in here and pick up those quick goals and start to fill in the information so that the planner or the accountant can actually then come in and review that before the strategy meeting. As an advisor, though, you might actually like to, depending on your time constraints, post the discovery session, actually come in here and spend that time with your client and really start to work through the goals that you're wanting to work with that client. So we've really built the goals module that it can suit either scenario. But what I'll take you through now is just actually going through and actually starting to build out some of those goals and show you how you can actually prioritize those as well. So let's say, for example, I'm just going to pick up maybe this one here. This is the one where we wanted to look at buying some equipment for the business. So you can see that there's not a lot of information in here at the moment. It's just got the goal title that we've put in and the way that it's been ranked. So this is where you can actually start to increase the information. So what you'd want to do is you want to put in a status. So is this something that the client needs to do? Is it something that they're doing, or is it something that the client has already done? Now, that done component, that's going to come in really helpful once the client starts to track and progress these goals and starts to complete those goals, because it just shows what you've completed with the client over the working relationship. You can come in here and you can assign this. So at the moment, this might be something that just Abby needs to complete. It might be Dan, or it could be something that's a joint household goal. So you can update that. Completion status. So when does this actually need to happen by? So you can put in a date as to when the client wants to achieve this. And that way we've just got some smart measures around that goal. So you can put in here if it's a financial goal or a non-financial goal. So if it's a financial goal, will the client have less money, more money? So you can put in here, you can put in some measurements around some costings. You can also capture if it's a reoccurring goal. So perhaps maybe, you might have a client that wants to go on a regular holiday. They want to spend $10,000 a year and they want to do that for the next 10 years. So you can come in here and actually put in some measurements around that. Or you can just put it as a one-time situation. What does success look like? You should have really uncovered this information in the value session. So you can either copy those notes over if you've used the voice to text, or just copy the information of what you recall from the client. But again, this is all something that the client can fill in from home as well. This other area here, additional items to help you achieve your goals. So this is, I would say, something more that the practice would be filling in for the client, because the client's probably not going to know the answers to this information. But essentially, you can link this goal back to an area of life that supports the goal. You can also come in here and link it back to a value card as well. So for this instance, feeling confident in my finances, this is where we uncovered this goal. So you can link that back to the goal. And you can actually start to put in some strategies to assist with this goal. So as Mark mentioned, we heard some strategies that James was throwing out that he could sort of help with. As an advisor and accountant, you can actually put some notes in here around those strategies. And all this information is going to pull through into the life book as well. So when you print that out for your client and you show them what you're going to be helping them with, they can clearly see their goals, and they can also see the strategies that you're going to implement to assist as well. Goal confidence is important. So how confident is the client that they're going to be able to achieve this goal? This is great to fill in, because all of this information around that goal confidence, that pulls through into that well-being score. And so as your client's confidence increases over time, you'll be able to see that their well-being score will increase as well. The client can add any images into here, so they can come in, log in, update some images, and then you can save that goal. So essentially, that's how you would start to use the information that you've uncovered in that value session to really define the goals in here. If there's anything you're unsure about, again, you can always reach out to the client, get them to fill it in, or maybe have that conversation over the phone as well. So just to quickly show you completed goals, they pull through here. And as mentioned, if the client's completed the Your Life survey, any of those goals from there will pull through into here as well. So that's where you can redefine everything. So we've gone through SMART goals. So we're just going to jump into why non-financial goals matter. So as you've progressed through the value session, you probably noticed that more than half of the cards are not very financial. So for example, we've got cards like dedicate more time to those I care about, be more socially active. So most of the value cards or statements are actually likely to have qualitative components attached to them. So meaning that if a person was to pick that card, there's more than likely could be some non-financial goals that the client would like to achieve off the back of that. So non-financial goals are especially important when dealing with that non-CFO spouse. And so although it's not exclusive to them, it really is where that non-CFO spouse is going to have that opportunity to talk to their advisor about the things that they do truly value and what they'd like to achieve. So if you're not currently capturing non-financial goals in your practice, I would just want you to have a little bit of a think about, if you're not capturing those goals, what are you going to talk to your non-CFO spouse out of that household during the length of your relationship? And I think it's important to remember that they're not interested in investments or the investment strategies. So you really need something else that you're going to be able to have that conversation with them about. Another thing that might surprise you is that what might seem like a non-financial goal, when you are unpacking it and when you're discussing that further, you might actually find that it does end up having a financial aspect. And James, who's joining us today, had a really good example of this in a podcast that we have recorded with him. So I would encourage you to jump into our podcast and have a bit of a listen to that one as well. So dealing with non-financial as well as financial goals, it really means that you're engaging with both parties of the household. You're helping that non-CFO feel engaged and listened to, and with any goals that they've raised, that you're showing them that it really does matter. This helps to retain and create a long working relationship with both members of the household, and really helps to keep them satisfied. So if you do have a bit of a client that's feeling a little bit restless or maybe on the wobble, if you may be dealing with a prospect, the experience that they're going to have with you in capturing those non-financial goals and discussing those, it's an experience that they're not really going to be getting with anybody else either. We do often get asked, what do we do with all of these non-financial goals? So while we've got James, I thought it'd be a really good opportunity to put that one out to yourself, James, and just ask yourself, what do you do with all of the non-financial goals?
Yeah, so with us, we obviously put them in as the goals, because the one thing, and you hit the nail on the head in relation to that non-CFO spouse, what you do find is that CFO is all about the different type of goals when it comes back to money and numbers. The non-CFO spouse is all about time and family and those type of things. So for us, it's critical, because what we find, I think, majority of our goals for our clients, they'd be anywhere from 10 to 20 goals. I would say half of those would be non-financial goals, which is great. So how we actually manage that going forward, it's about accountability. It's I'll always bring back to the best way you can actually get something out of yourself is having a coach. So whether it be sporting or anything else, having that business coach there. And that's what we're actually doing for our clients is when you're looking at non-financial matters, they can just be put to the side and never be spoken about again. Whereas when they know we're actually dealing with a financial advisor, we're actually going to be talking to them, whether on a 6-monthly basis or an annual basis, is, how are you going with this goal? You already said, this is really important to you. This is why we want to be able to live our best life. But if you haven't done that, then you're not progressing to live your best life. So they're really critical. But also, I think for a financial advisor and advice businesses, it's one of those big things for your client value proposition. It's huge, because this is what a lot of financial advisors just aren't doing. So when we get a lot of referrals from our clients, and the reason why we get it is because we actually going through and talking about these non-financial goals. We get a lot of clients that don't like financial advisors. They come to us because we do things differently, and this is just one of the things that Lumiant works really well with our clients, because it's just so much about making sure that we're doing the best by our clients, giving them financial advice based on their best interests. But it's a lot more. It's all about life planning for them.
Yeah, perfect. And look, you've already hit the nail on the head on some of the next points that I was going to bring up as well. And that's that, asking permission for your, if you can keep your clients accountable, or be that accountability partner as well, because we do hear a lot of advisors say, well, like, we're experts in money, we're experts in wealth, but not actually those personal lives. And so it could be that little bit of uncomfortable territory, when dealing with values and non-financial goals. But it is a really, as you mentioned, a great way that you can engage with your clients outside of meetings as well. And, if a client's telling you that, they want to run a marathon, or maybe they want to put in 5 kilometers a day and to make it happen, and if they're happy for you to be that accountability partner, you can really be there to help them to achieve some extra goals as well. I think it's important to note that before you do start, I guess, engaging with your clients and being that accountability partner for them, but you just check in with them and just make sure that they are actually willing to be held accountable for that. So, in asking permission for that qualitative side, you do want to make sure that, I guess, the client is actually serious enough to be held accountable to that goal, and also that they want you to be holding them accountable to that as well. So when I guess it comes to asking permission for your clients, you could simply say something along the lines of, would it be okay if I gave you a nudge from time to time, to check in, send you a text if you're going on that date night? There's definitely ways that you can sort of, make sure that they're going to their son's footy game, whatever it was that they told you was important to them and progressing their values. It's a simple way that you can help to keep them, accountable to those goals. With yourself, James, is there anything else that you would do to help your clients keep accountable to their non-financial goals?
No, I think the one thing that clients want to know is that we care about them. And that's why we're successful as financial advisors, is that we care. And it's not just about investments. It's not about super. It's really, we want to make sure that we're giving the accountability for them to live their best life. So I think again, come back to from a financial advice business point of view, it's not about what financial advice, what we think we should be doing for our clients. We've got to really start to get that picture away from that and actually focus on what the client gets. So what's important to the client, and then providing what we need to be able to do for those specific clients. I like the permission side of things because that's really important. If someone says weight loss isn't important, I want to lose 20 kilos, let me say that can be a big red flag. You need to make sure that you're having really honest conversations about how much accountability, depending on what those specific goals are. But and this is where it comes back to, I know Mark might jump in shortly, but the accountability, it only takes a quick email to a client to say, or task, how are you going with this? And it's something that you don't have to do as a financial advisor. You can have your support staff just following up. And it's just an unbelievable client value proposition for clients and client experience that's just a massive reminder to say, this is what we do for our clients and this is what's really important to them. So it works really well.
I was just going to add in, James, two things. So first one, yeah, you're right. That permission piece is so important, particularly around what goal you're holding them accountable to. The last thing you want is to not have that permission contract, for lack of a better term, and you're holding them to account on something and they start avoiding you on the financial stuff because you're pestering them on, are you going for a run, when they didn't want you to, hold them to account. So that's super important. The second was to offer an example with another shameless plug for our podcast. There's a episode coming up in the next couple of weeks around this exact example, and the advisor Werner from Purpose Advisory, who we're going to feature on the podcast, after they complete their implementation, we'll sit down with their support staff, articulate these are the goals and tasks that the client wants me to be accountable to, and his support staff puts tasks directly into his Outlook to go, you got to text this person on January 1st. And, it's one of the first things he does in the morning. And in his words, how much is it costing me just to send out a text message to let a client know that I'm thinking about them?
That's a fantastic example, Mark. And I think that's also, great sort of lead into, what you can actually do in between your meetings to keep your clients accountable towards those financial and non-financial goals. Too many goal words. But I guess, from a Lumiant perspective, we've built out the platform in a way that, Lumiant really does capture your entire relationship with the client as well. So if we jump into the life book, both the practice and the client can actually come in here. You can review your life book, which captures all of the information. It shows what the client is working on through the goals tracker, which sort of shows, all of the goals, when they're due, what's coming up. Not only does it provide you with all of the information, but it's a way that your clients have an opportunity to actually come in here and continue to progress and track and update their own goals. So if you encourage your clients to actually come in here in between review meetings, to log in and to progress things as they go, not only is it going to improve their wellbeing score, which does update each day on the progression of life, values, and goals, but it's also really going to help you to prepare for your review meetings as well, because you're always going to know that you've got that up-to-date information. So come a review time, you can just actually log into here. You can see how things have been moving. And when you do have that review meeting, you can actually just pick off and jump straight into, okay, well, this is where we're up to last time. This is how you've progressed. Let's see what else we can do to help you with those goals and your values as well. The other thing that we haven't discussed, and I'll quickly show you, is tasks. So we have got an inbuilt task system into the platform as well. So this is a really great way that you can actually alert the client that there might be some action required on their side. So, you know, maybe there was that date night and maybe they did want you to keep them accountable. You might actually like to come in here and just assign a task and put in here some notes. So you can come in, you can put in who their task is assigned to, you can put in a title, you can put in a date, you can add in some notes, you can mark what needs to happen, is that to do, doing and done, and save that information. And what will happen is once you assign that task to a client, they're actually going to get an email letting them know that you've reached out, there's a task due, they can come in here and they can have a look at it. They'll also get some nudges as well. So if that task is coming up to its due date and they haven't actioned it as yet, they will get some reminders as well. So this is just a really great way that you might be able to save some time as opposed to actually picking up the phone or sending an email. You can come into the Lumiant platform, you can track it in here, and it's just another way that you can actually show, you know, through the value of your relationship, look at all these goals that we've achieved, but look at all these tasks that we've completed as well. Plus you've got it all accessible and easy to refer back to at another stage as well. With yourself, James, is there anything else that you're doing in between your review meetings that you're using, I guess, Lumiant for to sort of manage?
There is, and we're just about to really roll out something huge for our business, because I think majority of financial advice businesses are, okay, look, this is what we charge our clients, but to factor on what the value is for them is, I'm going to give you 3 or 4 meetings per year. So what we're looking at to do is we want to make sure we do a standard review, but we need to, again, look from a client's perspective and say, what do they want from us? Where's the value? So if a client wants to, if you're actually providing a strategy review just to be able to talk about their investments, they can get that anytime. So if they're going to go and spend not only just the time to be able to get into your office, have the meeting, go home, that might be 3 or 4 hours. But what value are the clients actually getting out of that particular meeting that you're having with them? So we're very innovative with what we do in the whole financial advice industry with video advice and everything else. But our advice, client value proposition for clients, is just an ongoing relationship with our clients where it'll be just automatic touch points that we go, but we'll still just have that annual review to be able to make sure that we've got some. So again, there's a little bit of compliance in there as well, but making sure that we build some accountability there. So I think for other businesses, you need to start looking at that is, what's your client value proposition, but what's not only just your client value proposition for yourselves as financial advisors, but you need to focus on the client. Where's the value for the clients with everything that you're actually providing to them? And this is where I think Lumiant works really well, because it just gives the avenue. We're actually touching those clients. There's always things that we need to be able to do, whether it be just reviewing their how much money they can put into superannuation around about May or June. There might be budget things that come up with a budget that actually might be worthwhile for that particular client. So you can just send the task. So what you're actually doing is just doing an ongoing communication. So if ASIC ever came back and actually had a look and said, okay, what are you doing for your $10,000 fee? You can go, here we go. This is what we've got. Lumiant, this is all the connection points. This is what we've done. We've talked about values. We've got goals that are 10 to 20 different goals. We've talked about investment preferences on what they actually want. It is the complete compliance that will back up everything you're actually providing to your clients. But I still come back to, clients are number one. Think of from a client's perspective what they're actually getting. Everything that we actually do now is based on from a client's value or their client experience. So I think that's the number one for us. Just continual communication that just evolves over time, and everything else is just more a compliance aspect where we can actually send a format for an ongoing service arrangement review or renewal.
Perfect. That's some really good advice there. Thank you. So that brings us to the end of the webinar. And so I guess I just wanted to open up the chat to the participants that we have here. You know, if there's anything that James has spoken about, anything that we've discussed that you'd like us to elaborate on, is there any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and that way we can go through and we can make sure that we address those. While they're coming through, I wanted to say thanks, James, for joining us, coming on. It is a really great opportunity for you to share, how you're doing things in your practice, as we do get a lot of questions around the values, the goals, what are other advisors doing? So you are always a really great person that shares your advice. So appreciate that. Is there any questions that anybody has while we've got James, and that way we can use him to...
At least I might ask one on behalf of the audience, because
Perfect.
whether you're watching this back on playback or whether it's live, James, for advisors that are looking into this, or maybe have just started their journey with Lumiant, and I've had this before in previous goals-based, values-based discussions. If you extrapolate the experience you had around one value equaling 6 goals, you go through 5 values, you could end up with 30 goals to deal with, right? Which for advisors just starting out, or even if they're not starting out, can be pretty daunting to plan for, right? I think the average amount of goals on a financial plan in Australia at the moment is like 1.5. And I think we'd all probably take a stab and hit what they are. It might be review investments and retire at age 65 with 50 grand per annum. So now I've got 30 goals to deal with. How do you personally, if you've got 15, 20, 30 goals, how do you personally take that information away and methodically think about your strategy? Do you do that by yourself? Do you get the team involved? How do you do it?
Yeah, we still deal with each financial advisor. I suppose when we look at 30 goals, again, because I've done over 100 values conversations, what I find is when you're actually going through the goals and actually pick those particular cards, you will get, especially when it comes back to money and things like that, you will get 4 or 5, but some of the other ones may only be 1 goal. So realistically, I would say, like, if we're talking about 10 to 15 goals, 2 cards, you might have 4 or 5, but the other ones might be 1 or 2. So that's generally that I see going through all this with our clients, that we never, I can't remember going over 20 goals. I think 15 is probably the highest that we've actually seen in the business, and 15 becomes a lot more reasonable to be able to manage. And it really comes back to your clients, because if we do get to 30 goals, I'd be talking about our clients going, okay, how much accountability do you want? And then we will need to review our fee structure for you to be able to do that. And that they understand that. It just comes back to
you're helping them with more things, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's the opportunity to prioritize them, right? So you've got in the platform the opportunity to have must have, nice to have, dream come true. Some of those goals you're going to hear and you're going to go, that is a long way off, and that's probably more of a dream come true. So let's focus on your must haves, and we'll keep these in the system so that we don't ever forget them. But our plan is going to focus around what you need to do today to progress your life a little bit more aligned to your values, and we can address those dream come trues once we've hit these milestones. So there's definitely different ways you can achieve it. I think I'm going to have a little plug here for your best life as well, the modeling tool. So that one enables you to actually see what the impact of achieving all those goals on that person's life and their finances is. And you can quickly see whether they will be on track, underfunded or overfunded. And I think if they've got too many goals and they're starting to look way too underfunded, it's a choice then between you and the client to have that trade-off conversation and really boil down what goals might have to give, because it's just not possible for the finance that they have or the life they want to live.
Yeah, and especially with those non-financial goals as well, there's a bunch of things that a lot of people want to be able to do, but they physically haven't got the time to be able to do it. So again, Ash, you hit the nail on the head about priorities, is that there's no issue actually putting some of these things off, still keeping it as a goal, it's important to them, but just pushing the time frame back and say, okay, look, yeah, let's focus on this particular one, let's have a good 6 months, and then let's prioritize the next goal. So again, with the financial we cover off, again, I love how you brought up the best life, because that's what we do every 12 months as part of the annual review. Are you on track? What are the things you need to be able to do? So we're always having those conversations there. But the trade-offs conversation just makes it so much more, because the clients can see the value for it.
Totally.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I might leave it there. And that way we can wrap it up and let everybody get off to some lunch and have a quick bite to eat. But just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us. You will receive a copy of the recording at the end of the session. Once we've got that processed, it will also be loaded up onto our support centre. We do have a dedicated area on our support centre where all of the webinars and the podcasts are housed. So I would definitely encourage you to pop into there and to have a listen, put the podcast on at your lunchtime, put it on the background because there's some great information in there as well. I'd also encourage you to complete the feedback survey at the end of this session as well, as that just really helps us to make sure that we are covering the content that you want. And if there is anything that we have missed in the session, please let us know, and that way we can make sure we address it next time as well. We do have more webinars on the way also, so as you will be emailed and informed about those, just register when you can. But otherwise, I just wanted to say a massive thanks to James for jumping in and joining us. It's always great to have you here and appreciate your support. And thanks to everybody else, Ash, Mark, and everyone that's joined us in the audience for joining today as well.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, then. Enjoy the day.
Thank you very much, everyone. Cheers.